welcome to another edition of Full Time with Tonge Wareing, the football podcast, which is for absolutely everybody. If you've got a football story, no matter what team you support, no matter what standard it is, no matter what standard you play, then you can get in touch with us right here. We are the football podcast for you. Fulltime with tw@gmail.com. And we're available on X as well, Fulltime TW. Now, if you've not heard us before, then we are still relatively new. This is only our 7th edition. I'm Anthony Wareing. I'm just a football fan who likes to talk a little bit of football. But with me on this venture is my very good friend and former professional, Alan Tonge. You're right, Al. How are you doing? Had a good week?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. I'm a bit mixed this weekend with a couple of results that we're going to sort of discuss a little bit. But yeah, not too bad at all. And how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. I think my results were a bit mixed as well. We'll get into those in just a second. But as ever, we're going to start with Alan's away end. If this is the first time you've heard this, then what we do on this podcast, every edition, we send Alan off on his travels. And he goes and places himself inside a football stadium. He then gives us 3 clues throughout the recording of this particular podcast. And all you have to do is work out where Alan is located. So, Alan, obviously we need to know, first of all, where you were last time we put a recording together. If you can remind us, first of all, of the 3 clues and then reveal the answer, please.
Certainly, Ant. So first clue was this ground was constructed in 1899. It was the only home ground in this club's history. Clue number 2 was this is the only professional ground not located on the mainland of Great Britain. And then the third clue was in 2007, this ground hosted the highest scoring match in Premier League history.
And you were at?
I was at Fratton Park and at Portsmouth on this one.
Yeah, a football ground with plenty of character. I've only ever made the one visit to Fratton Park, but I have to say, it was absolutely bouncing. Tremendous supporters at Portsmouth. They really were, and they properly get behind their team as well. Any right answers?
Yes, we've had a couple of people that have messaged in with the right answer for this one. We had a Steve Sykes who got it right, Martin Woodgates as well. We also had Mark Halliwell, but I think Mark Halliwell cheated on this one because he openly admitted that he'd used Google and he said it was a great question, Anthony. So we can't give that. We can't give the cred to Mark can we? But certainly Steve Sykes and Martin Woodgate's well done.
So Martin Woodgates and Steve Sykes, if you want to send us your contact details, please do so. fulltimewithtw@gmail.com, and we will get a prize out to you. I think we got one out to Rob Bidder, hopefully during the week, because he also got one right in a previous edition as well. Right, Al, you're off on your travels again. First clue, please.
Yeah, certainly not standing still in these podcasts, are we? So let's go with the first clue. I always start with the ground and its kind of origins, and that was the ground was built in 1904, and it was first used by its main inhabitants, or the team, in 1917, so you must be a real die-hard supporter if you get it right on clue 1.
If you think you know the answer to Alan's away end, then drop us a line, fulltimewithtw@gmail.com. You can also message us on X as well, fulltimetw @fulltimetw is where you can find us on X as well. Right, Al, the Premier League got underway this weekend, and of course the EFL continues as well. I mean, we could sit here, couldn't we, for the next hour or so and discuss every single game that was played, but we don't have time to do that. So what I thought I'd do, Al, is I thought I'd start off by calling you out a little bit, because your team, your boys, lost 2-0 at Hull City yesterday.
Yeah, it doesn't take long, does it, to start feeling a bit down again on a Saturday?
I'll let you get your revenge, because I know what you're thinking now when I said that a little bit earlier. But yeah, I mean, 2-0 at newly promoted Hull.
Yeah, it really disappointing start for United. I think it was one of those games, where you probably, when you look at it on paper, you think, oh, Hull City, just been promoted, probably be struggling, not a bad start for United. But then, you look at it in context and you think, well, the crowd are going to be up for it. It's going to be a real tough atmosphere. The players are going to be absolutely fired up to the eyeballs. And that proved to be right. I think over the course of the game, I think United had some decent data, Anthony. I think it wasn't too bad in relation to some of the stats that were revealed. I I think I read somewhere that they had over 400 more passes than Hull City, but got to score goals, haven't they? That's what the game's all about. United didn't. Hull got a couple of set pieces that they managed to score from. And, overall, you can't take it away from Hull City. I think they deserve the win, Ant, and a really disappointing start. And as we know in football, pressure straight on Michael Carrick already. But I always look at it in these terms, Ant, and, the same with other sides. I think you need I would say probably about 5 games before you start judging what they're doing and where they're up to and what needs tweaking around a little bit. But certainly ended up with a bit of a bloody nose there, Manchester United. So, they have to bounce back. They got Ipswich Town at home next Sunday, I think it is. Opportunity to try and bounce back there. But all in all, well done to Hull City yesterday. But from a Man United perspective, a really, really disappointing start.
Do you know what the funny thing is? As I often do, I had a look at the odds to see who is now the first Premier League manager that might lose his job now that the season is underway. And the Hull City manager is still the favourite, despite the fact it got started with a 2-0 win at home to Manchester United.
Oh, well, we mentioned him last week, didn't we, about the first managerial casualty. But again, I might be wrong here, but I think that I've read today, I'm sure Antti signed a 3-year contract. I might be wrong on that, but when I was scrolling and online, and I thought to myself, well, fair play to him, but, my tip, absolutely pathetic last week, and the manager goes and signs a 3-year contract, so that will be out the window from my perspective in relation to first manager losing his job.
Yeah. From the Championship, before you can have your revenge on me, Alan, for me mentioning Manchester United, I'm sure you'd like for me to discuss Preston North End, but we'll quickly gloss over that. I have to say, the result from the Championship from yesterday has to be Charlton beating West Ham at West Ham.
Oh, yeah, really good result, that wasn't it? And again, there's been a few teams that are in sort of the Championship, League One, League Two. We'll discuss them shortly, that you think, well, they're going to be favourites to win the league. But, we can name all 3 from every division, Champ, League One, League Two, that have got off to bad starts. I'm sure we'll cover those. But, yeah, fantastic win for Charlton, going to West Ham and managing to beat them and, get 3 points is incredible, really. So, I think a few West Ham fans not very happy, yesterday. A lot of boos, apparently. So, yeah, they're not off to the best of starts. So, really disappointing from their perspective, but superb for Charlton.
And as for my club, work to do. That's all I would say, work to do. In League One, result of the day, got to be Burton beating Leicester at Leicester.
Well, we had a chat about this, hadn't we, a few weeks ago, I think when we was doing our Carabao Cup predictions, and you mentioned Burton, didn't you, to maybe get a result against Blackburn, and they nearly did. And I think from your perspective, you can maybe reveal a little bit more, but you've got a bit of a soft spot for Burton, haven't you?
A little bit. I like Gary Bowyer. I think he's a good manager. He's a good man. I've never met him, but I do like him. I think wherever he's been, he's done reasonably well. But I also like the club. I mean, we've been to Burton a few times ourselves, Alan, and it's such a friendly place to go. Good supporters as well. It's probably a football club that's not, you would say, steeped in history, but nevertheless, it is a very welcoming place to go.
It certainly is, and Russell Martin, the Leicester manager, I was listening to his interview. He's not very happy at the moment, as he said that there's going to be some hard conversations. Only played 2 games in the league, and not a great start for Leicester. Again, one of our picks, weren't they? That one of many supporters' picks, I think, to win League One, and off to not the best of starts. Leicester coughing and spluttering a bit starting the season.
Another one of our picks, Al. I mean, we've made a right shambles of this, haven't we? Was Salford City lost again?
Oh, dear me, I don't know. That's what's going on with these picks.
What do we know? What do we know?
What do we know? I know, pathetic, aren't they? Pathetic tipping, but I know it's early days, but really disappointing start this has been, hasn't it, for Salford City? Losing to Barnet, wasn't it, last weekend, first game of the season, and then you think to yourself, well, they've got a home tie next week, so chances are they'll bounce back. But I think it was one of the listeners who kind of who texted us with their predictions. They mentioned Chesterfield, didn't they, and said, Cookie is getting them sorted and he'll get them off to a decent start, and they might challenge this year, and that might prove to be the case. But not quite alarm bells ringing at Salford yet, but managers and not really, they don't really get along there, aren't they? Before they're under pressure, and with the standards of the owners and the standards of what's required there, that manager that they brought in needs to start finding some wins and quick.
Yeah, I had a message actually last night from somebody who listens to our podcast. He's a Tottenham Hotspur supporter. I'm very sorry, I've mislaid the message, so I can't read your name out, but you'll know who you are. And he wants us to talk about, on this edition, Spurs' defeat at Brentford. They've spent nearly 400 million and they go and lose their opening game 3-0 at Brentford.
Yeah, when you bring players in, Ant, it's got to be strategic, hasn't it? It's not about throwing money. You've got to have a plan, haven't you? You've got to have some imagery of how your team's going to play and how players fit together personalities-wise, and throwing money at something and expecting to throw a team together and go and get results for you doesn't work, does it, a lot of the time? So, yeah, really, really disappointing start for Spurs again, Anthony. One of my tips, I think, last week, I think you asked me, didn't you?
We both predicted them to do well. Yeah, we both thought they'd go well this season. Yeah.
I'm not too sure, Ant. It might have been Spurs and Newcastle you paired it up with.
Yeah. I can't remember,
and I said,
actually. I'll have to bring up the paperwork. I've got it somewhere.
Yeah. With Spurs spending a bit of money, you think, there's no way are they going to do as bad as they've done the last couple of seasons.
It was Spurs and Villa, and they both lost this week.
Villa.
They both lost this weekend.
Well, Villa have had a shocker today, until they got hammered at Brighton, haven't they?
4-0 down after half an hour. They then go and have a man sent off, and they don't concede another one. They actually play better with 10 men.
Yeah, so again, not really bad start for them. So, not the best. And a lot of teams not starting very well. But like I said, it's early days, plenty of time, and supporters have just got to be a bit patient, haven't they? And maybe judge your team after about 5 or 6 matches and see where they are then.
Yeah, before we move on, we have had our first managerial casualty of the season. More about that in just a second. But I want to mention this, Al. The FA Cup is underway already. And we've had the preliminary round of the FA Cup. And I've got the results here in front of me. A ton of games. But I just want to read out some of these names because they are absolutely fantastic, some of these names. We've got teams like the Jersey Bulls, who beat Shearwater by 4-1. Andover New Street beat Shaftesbury Town 2-1. We've got, who else have we got down here? Boldmere St Michael's beat Chase Town 1-0. I'd love to know. My dream, Al, is that one day this podcast will reach people who are involved with these football clubs, and I'd love to know more about them because some of these names are absolutely fantastic, I can tell you. I've got one down here. There was a massive result for Hashtag United, who beat Enfield 10-1 in the preliminary round of the FA Cup. And what I thought we'd do, Al, I'm going to bring up, whenever the draw is and whenever the next round is, I'll bring up the fixtures, and what we'll do at random, completely at random, is we'll choose one of these teams. Okay, and I thought we'd monitor that team's progress through the FA Cup. If they lose in the next round, then the team they lose to becomes the team that we will monitor all the way through to the final, because I'd like to try and get somebody from one of these clubs involved in our podcast, because this, to me, is your bread and butter of football. Without this, nothing else above it would exist.
Yeah, absolutely. And football for me was entrenched in the working classes. That's where it came from. And I think, the real top level of professional football, I think it's lost its soul, Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely.
Over this I'd probably say this last sort of 10, 15 years. And I think, you hear about all these transfer fees and the money and the wages that players get, but the real bread and butter, the real, people, working class people, they're playing in these non-league sides, and you're desperate for them to do well, maybe get through the few preliminary rounds of the FA Cup. And wouldn't that be fabulous for some of these sides to get in the first round draw? And that'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Virginia Water lost to Redhill by 2-1. Anyway, I digress. We have had our first managerial casualty of the season, Al. People will be thinking to themselves right now, listening to this podcast, well, who on earth is that? But let me remind you, we are a football podcast for absolutely everybody, whether it's Premier League, Football League, or non-league. and Bernard Morley and Radcliffe Borough have parted company, Al.
Yeah, it's a shame. I know his mate, Anthony Johnson, he moved on to Bury, didn't he? And they were, or have been a pair for a long time, Anthony and Bernard. They got an incredible record at non-league levels. And, they've got a real high percentage of, games that they've been unbeaten in, wins and draws and, fair play to them. But, maybe, I don't know what happened with Bernard there. Maybe he just thought that, that it had come to the end of the road for him. Maybe he wasn't enjoying it as much as he should be doing and, decided that it wasn't for him. So, that's the sort of the decisions that you have to make, isn't it? But I saw Radcliffe, typical managerial bounce, isn't it? I think they won yesterday, didn't they? Was it 2-1 against somebody?
Yeah, they did. They did get a victory yesterday. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what Bernard does now. Maybe wants to get back with Anthony again at some stage because
Anthony's at Bury at the moment.
That's right. Yeah. They're a real partnership, them two, aren't they? So watch this space.
Yeah. Well, certainly. So remember the crystal ball? Well, we did predict, or rather, you did predict that we would lose a manager before September starts, and we can now tick that one off because that has happened. People will be saying to themselves, I'm sure, listening to us right now, well, it's not Premier League, it's not Football League. Doesn't matter. We are a football podcast. Let me remind you, a football podcast for absolutely everybody. And with that in mind, there is a massive international break coming up, Alan. I mean, we can debate that as a separate issue, but I think during that international break, we will try and do a non-league special.
Yeah, definitely. I think is it a 3-weeker and something like that?
Yeah.
On, dear me. So, but I think this is it with football now. The international break, it used to sort of extend maybe around the top levels. Obviously the Premier League grinds to a halt.
Yeah.
But it extends now into Championship and League One as well, doesn't it? With call-ups around the globe. So
yeah. Players jetting off here, there, and everywhere. Right. Before we move on then to part 2, and we're going to be discussing transfer deadline days gone by. We've sent Alan off on his travels again for Alan's away end. Can we have your second clue, please?
So, yes, a quick reminder of the first one. The ground was built in 1904 and it's been used by its main inhabitants since 1917. So that's when they kind of moved in and started playing there. The second clue, I think, is a good one. I think this will give an opportunity for a lot of people to guess this now. So it's the first British stadium to have an artificial pitch installed.
Oh, I think I know what it is now. But anyway, that's not for me. It's for you guys listening. Fulltime with tw@gmail.com if you want to send us your answers at fulltimetw on X as well. Right, coming up next, we are talking transfer deadline day. You're listening to Full Time with Tonge Wareing, the football podcast, which is, of course, for absolutely everybody. Full Time with tw@gmail.com, at fulltimetw on X as well. If you want to get in touch with us with absolutely anything, you might disagree with something that we've said here. We don't mind. Send it in. You'll be wrong. We're right, but send it in anyway. Doesn't really matter. Right, Al, transfer window. Are you for it or are you against it?
Well, it's probably a few managers are probably against it, aren't they? But, it gives you an opportunity to strengthen your squad, dive in. Obviously, if you use the transfer window correctly, can generate a few quid for the club, etc., etc. But I think a few managers start panicking, especially if you've had a bad start. And, all of a sudden they think, well, we've not won in a few weeks, so we better get into this transfer window and start bringing some players in. So, yeah, there's been loads of little anecdotes and stories, hasn't there, from years gone by. Is
it a case that when it comes to deadline day, clubs start panicking if they've not done the business that they want to do? And is that maybe inflated prices for footballers a little bit?
I think so, I think so. I think that the transfer deadline day again. If you're a club where you've got a certain position or certain something in your mind and you want to get that business done, you can be held at ransom if you're not careful. And I think that's what I think a few clubs in the window, and they start smelling almost a little bit of desperation.
Yeah.
One of the great sort of examples of that is, I don't know if you've seen the documentary Sunderland Till I Die.
I have. Great documentary,
I
yeah.
think it was really good. I think it came on sort of around the COVID time, didn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
And I think they were sort of tracking a centre forward, weren't they, right on the deadline? And it was a lad called Will Grigg from Wigan.
Yeah.
Will Grigg's on fire.
Yeah. I remember
your defence is terrified.
I remember watching the owner pacing up and down the halls of his offices with a phone, panicking because the bids weren't being accepted or the bids were just being increased. And in the end, I think he bit the bullet, didn't he, and paid what the asking price was, even though he didn't want to pay it.
Absolutely. And I think that he had like his advisors, right? I think Tony Coton was sat there, the goalkeeper and a couple of other guys, like the analysts, and they were saying that probably around $1.25 million for Will Grigg at that time was a fair price. And they told, I think it was Stuart Donald, wasn't it, the owner of Sunderland at the time, just to rein yourself back a little bit because you're not going to get the value here. And I think, as you say, with that back and forward, so half an hour had gone by, and he said, get another bid in. So it went up to 8 bids in the end. It was around £4 million, I think they paid for Will Grigg, and I don't think it was the best of signings for Sunderland. I don't think his return was crash hot, but
no.
That's what something can lead to when you start getting a little bit maybe over anxious as the time starts ticking away.
I don't think he became a club legend, did he? After that, no. I mean, the one I remember is one that didn't happen. I remember sitting down watching deadline day unfold in front of my television, and the Peter Odemwingie one from West Brom to QPR, which didn't happen in 2013, was absolutely bizarre. I mean, if you don't recall this, let me remind you, Odemwingie had been pushing for a move away from West Brom, and QPR were actually interested. And on deadline day, the player himself drove roughly 120 miles from Birmingham to London, turned up at QPR's Loftus Road ground, expecting to complete the transfer. The problem was the clubs hadn't actually agreed a fee. And Odemwingie was sat outside the ground while cameras were all over the story. He spoke to television broadcasters from his car, believing the move was essentially done, and QPR wouldn't let him into the stadium. And the QPR boss at the time was Harry Redknapp, and he described it afterwards as a case of wires got crossed. And Odemwingie had to drive back, all the way back to Birmingham, was subsequently fined 2 weeks' wages, and was left out of the squad for the next match. I mean, that is just unbelievable.
It is. The mad world of football, Nothing surprises you, it really doesn't.
I mean, imagine, the embarrassment that particular player must have thought at the time is incredible. Do you remember the Dimitar Berbatov one?
Yeah, I think Rob, just give Rob Bidder another mention. Rob really interact with the podcast, so thanks for that, Rob. Thanks for getting involved and sending in your bits and pieces. It's much appreciated. And he mentioned the Peter Odemwingie one, Ant, and he did mention the Berbatov one as well, Ant. Was that in relation to?
He didn't know which Manchester club he was going to sign for.
That sounds about right, doesn't it?
He was leaving Tottenham in 2008 on deadline day, knowing that both Manchester clubs wanted him. So he travelled north without knowing where he was going, City or United.
Incredible.
And eventually it was United who were the ones who got to the airport first, picked him up, and he went and completed the deal. Yeah,
typical Fergie, straight in there. It's like a bit of, like a fox one at times, Sir Alex, when he very cunning and that, and managed to land Berbatov, who went on to sort of prove himself as a real quality, classy player, wasn't he? Real tidy player, Dimitar Berbatov.
Do you remember the Ryan Babel one on deadline?
Yeah, go on. What happened there?
So in 2010, Liverpool winger Ryan Babel was desperate to leave Liverpool, with Tottenham and West Ham reportedly interested. Babel took matters into his own hands and got on a helicopter heading towards London. Okay. The problem was nobody knew exactly where he was going, and he didn't end up signing for anyone and was back at Liverpool later that day, and it became known as Babelcopter.
I don't know. I'm crazy, isn't it? Absolutely mad. I was listening to that one before, and so I don't know if you heard this one. It was Roy Keane when he was trying to sign Matty Taylor, the old Portsmouth player.
Yeah.
And he said he'd come up to the Stadium of Light to talk to Roy Keane. So Roy had said he'd showed him round, and was sort of, I think probably Roy felt as we had a good chance of getting him. And I think Matty Taylor said to Roy, it's a big move. I've got Bolton, they're interested in me as well. So I need quite a bit of time to really think about this because I'm going to have to move my children's schools and stuff like that. So Roy said to him, not a problem. That's totally fine. So anyway, he said like Matty Taylor had left Stadium of Light after a couple of minutes or something. He said that's all it was. And he got a text message on his phone and Roy thought, oh, what's this coming through? And it was Matty Taylor. And Roy said he could still see him walking across the car park. And he said, the text message, I've decided to go to Bolton. After saying to Roy, I need loads of time to think about it and all that. So
yeah.
I think Roy was kind of like, he couldn't believe the text message that had come through in such a short space of time. Yeah. Probably thinking to himself, what have I said wrong here, dearie me?
Absolutely. Now, it doesn't matter, Alan, how big a football club you actually are, because if your fax machine doesn't work on deadline day, then you might hit problems. And it happened to two of the biggest football clubs in the world, Manchester United and Real Madrid. Okay, in 2015, both clubs agreed a deal involving David De Gea and Keylor Navas. Everything is happening right at the last minute. Then the paperwork doesn't go through. Real Madrid blamed technical problems involving their fax machine. United disputed aspects of what happened. The deal collapsed and both players stayed where they were. So you've got all the best players in the world, you've got all the best technology in the world, but you haven't got a decent fax machine for deadline day. Let that be a lesson to you.
Yeah, maybe try and put a plug on it next time, Auntie. I think somebody maybe
pay the phone bill. Pay the phone bill.
Yeah.
If anybody's listening from Man United or Real Madrid, pay your phone bill before deadline day. You're going to need it. It also happened, believe it or not, very recently, 2023. Lewis O'Brien was set to go from Nottingham Forest to Blackburn. Okay, Blackburn agreed to take the Nottingham Forest midfielder on loan on deadline day, but Forest failed to submit all the required paperwork in time. And the EFL rejected the registration and the transfer was initially blocked. I mean, if you're a player, Alan, and some of these clubs are miles and miles apart from each other, and they'll be travelling, they'll be getting ready for medicals and all kinds of stuff. And if all this breaks down, it must be very, very frustrating.
Yeah, I think psychologically it has to be, doesn't it? If you've mentally geared up for a move somewhere and then, it's getting close to the deadline, anxiety, panic starts to kick in, and I think like you say, if you were set on maybe trying to get away and maybe go back to your home country or go somewhere else that might be closer to family or something like that, and it all falls through, that's really, really frustrating, isn't it? So, as you said there, there's been a couple of examples of that, hasn't there, over the last few years, and so we can't wait. Sky Sports always dedicate a full day to it, don't they? And all the transfer happenings,
the supporters love it, don't they? They absolutely adore it. Yeah, let's be honest. I mean, for me, it's a bit of a farce. I'm a traditionalist. I think football clubs should be allowed to buy and sell players whenever they want, but I think some supporters do get a real kick out of it.
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, there'll be loads of supporters glued to the television, won't they, just to see if they manage to get a little addition or a good addition to their squad or their team. They'll hopefully improve the team and maybe get them up the league and start challenging a bit. That's what supporters want, don't they? Like really, really good signings that they probably didn't see coming.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Right, Al, last time, I put you on the spot, okay? I'm going to do it again, all right? I'm going to give you 5 transfers that happened on deadline day, and I want you to tell me if it was good business or complete panic buy, okay? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Wayne Rooney, Everton to Man United, 2004, 20 million.
Oh, that was outstanding business, wasn't it? I know it was quite a big fee at the time, but I think one of the first games that Wayne Rooney played for Man United, he knocked a hat-trick in the Champions League. Unbelievable signing. One of the best English players of all time.
Okay, Mesut Ozil, Real Madrid to Arsenal in 2013.
Not say he set the world alight. Classy player, German international, really decent footballer. But I don't know whether he was like an arse. You could classify as an Arsenal legend, but probably then go the sort of the flip on that and say, no, I want the best of business. That
Claude Makelele, Real Madrid to Chelsea in 2003.
Yeah, like Makelele, a real quality holding midfielder, wasn't he, for Chelsea? What was the fee on that? Was it quite a big fee, that one?
I've not got it written down,
Yeah,
actually. I'm not
I probably
really
would, wouldn't it?
sure.
Madrid to Chelsea, you would
Yeah.
have thought that's
Anthony, do
quite
your
high.
homework.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. The angry producer wants to get involved. Sorry, angry producer. What did you say?
Anthony, do your homework.
All right. Yeah. Sorry. Next time I'll have the fee for you. Do apologise. Cristiano Ronaldo, Juventus to Man United in 2021.
Not too sure if it was the same player when he came back.
Yeah.
I think Man United got into a bit of a stew with this particular transfer, didn't they? Because I think Man City was sniffing around Cristiano originally. There was rumours he was going to sign for the blue side of Manchester. And with the sort of the genius that he is, and with the outstanding memories that he'd given us in his first period with Man United, you thought this will be a really, really good signing. But I don't know if he fitted the system that was getting played at the time. I think certain managers wanted to play certain ways, and Cristiano's not going to close fullbacks down when they get the ball. He just, his genius just wants the ball at his feet, and try and unlock defences and show his magic with that.
Okay.
So maybe this particular signing wasn't the best at that time, in 2021.
Okay, last one. I'll have to push you because we are running out of time. Enzo Fernandez, Benfica to Chelsea, 2023. I have the fee on this, angry producer, by the way.
Get on with it.
All right, then. It was 106 million.
Oof, yeah, a lot of cash. And I don't know if he's... I can't say he's been breaking any pots for that particular fee. He has got ability, as we know from the World Cup. He is a quality footballer. When he sadly knocked the equaliser in against England, but in relation to that move to Chelsea, I don't think he's kind of like really, really establishing himself as a top Premier League player just yet. Showing glimpses, but not firing on all cylinders. So for the fee, probably not the best of business.
There we go. That's our review of deadline days gone past. If you want to get in touch, then you can do fulltime with tw@gmail.com. If you want to agree or disagree with anything that we've said, at fulltime TW on X as well. Coming up next, we're going to be telling you what's coming up on future editions of Full Time with Tonge Wareing. Full time with Tonge Wareing. We're nearly through another edition of our football podcast, which is for absolutely everybody. Very quickly, Al, you're at another football ground and we want the listeners to guess where you are at. Can we have your third and final clue, please?
Okay, and so a quick reminder of the first clue. The ground was built in 1904 and first used by its main inhabitants in 1917. Second clue, first British stadium to have an artificial pitch installed. And the third clue is the rugby league team, London Wasps, have shared the ground with this side, and also it's been used in recent years by Fulham and AFC Wimbledon.
There we go. Full time with tw@gmail.com, at fulltime TW on X. Have a go at Al's away end. There's a prize in it for you as well. Right, Al, how much do you know about the WSL?
Bits and pieces, just through Man United, really. Sort of follow some of their sort of games that they play and things like that. But I wouldn't say I have a massive knowledge on it, but little bits and pieces.
Well, the next edition, we're going to dedicate a lot of it to the WSL. We're going to do our WSL preview, and we've got a guest coming on, Chloe Hudson-Jones, who's played for Liverpool, Aston Villa. She's also managed and coached as well during her career. I don't want her showing you up, Al, so I suggest you can swat up on the WSL because Chloe's going to come along and give us a hand with that, and that's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Absolutely brilliant to tap into Chloe's knowledge and see what Chloe thinks for this season and see which teams are going to be doing the business.
Absolutely. Right, we're at the end of another edition of Full Time with Tonge and Wareing. As I said earlier, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do. If you've got a football story for us that you want us to discuss, if you agree with what we're saying, if you disagree with what we're saying, then fulltime with tw@gmail.com is the email address for you, at fulltime TW on X as well. That's it, Al. We're done. As I say always, enjoyed it?
Yeah, absolutely. I always enjoy having a little chat about football for half an hour, 35 minutes, Ant. Yeah. Have you enjoyed it, Ant?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Right. Until next time, then, when we do our WSL preview, have a great week and enjoy your football.